It just really makes me calm. And yeah, even when I'm not hearing like all these voices from the plants or having these big insights, but it's like having a friend or having a mother or having like a lover that just doesn't judge you for how you are and is always there if you need someone to call upon.
Welcome to the Seeing in the Dark podcast, the podcast for new ways of leading and doing business. No more separation between money, power, and leadership, and being a deeply spiritual human being. Seeing in the Dark is about walking paths that have not been walked before and truly making a change in a world in which old ways are crumbling. My name is Nicole Nyima, CEO of a multiple six-figure soul-based business, and here to take you into the mysteries of purpose, power, intuition, and soul-based leadership. May you embody your own unique essence so deeply that your vibration naturally teaches, inspires, and assists others. Let's dive in. I can't wait to dive into this week's episode with you. I invited Danielle Sawan, who is a mystic, intuitive herbalist and writer, and she has been studying with the plants and herbs all across the world. We've met on a project that we were both speakers on, and from the moment I met her, I was just inspired by her deep connection with the spirit of plants and herbs. Even as she came onto the interview, she brought her plants with her, and she just emanates and radiates the deep love of working with the kingdom of the plants. So in this episode, I am going to dive into her story on how the plants started to communicate with her, but also she will be offering some ways on how you can connect with the kingdom of plants and herbs and how you can start communicating with them, calling them into your life as dear friends and supportive guides. So enjoy this week's episode with Danielle and myself, and have an amazing time getting to know deeper this kingdom of the plants and the herbs. Much love. Welcome everyone to this week's episode, which I am so excited to dive into together with Danielle Sawan. She is an expert in plants. I've been following her a bit on Instagram, and I can see that her love for plants and herbs just pours off of the screen. And I felt immediately drawn into your work, Danielle. I could feel my love for spirits in everything, but in the connection with you specifically, also my love for the spirit in plants. So welcome. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm really grateful to be here. And with all my
and
plant allies.
Yes, you are also checking in from Brazil right now, right?
Yes.
And I believe you're going to sit with one of the master plants soon. Was it tomorrow?
It's tomorrow. Yeah, I'll be with the Yawanawa. The first time I'm sitting with the Yawanawa.
Beautiful. I've been dieting with them in the Amazon jungle for a month. And I absolutely love what they bring, like this beautiful tradition and love that they have for nature and shamanism and the earth and plants. It's incredible.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's not what we're here for. I feel really curious to ask you more about your journey with the plants, because I see such a deep love for plants and herbs. I was seeing like stories about teas and aruda and all these beautiful herbs that I love so deeply as well.
I have them here.
Yay! Beautiful. I feel curious, has this always been like this for you, this love for plants?
I was actually reflecting on this morning in my meditation because I really wanted to be authentic and vulnerable and truthful. Ever since I was a child, I'd always had a love for plants and connected to roses. Like my mom's middle name is Rose, so I feel like Rose has always been in my field as a mother. So that's a connection that I've had, but I haven't always remembered. So it's like when we're diving into something new in our psyche, there's so many things that are stored in our DNA as ancient memories, which is why I have rosemary, because rosemary is a really amazing herb for memory, has a lot of medicinal benefits, but also on a deeper layer, it activates the memories within our blood. So I've been working a lot with rosemary lately to remember to remember this innate knowledge that is part of me and part of my ancestors. And when I speak about my ancestors, I speak about not just my immediate lineage from I have Thai ancestry, I have European ancestry, but I feel it goes really, really deep way back. And my ancestors have been working with herbs. So even in Thailand, I actually had a Thai grandmother. She's spirit now, but even when I was growing up with her, so she came to California, my dad brought his whole family, and she was always mixing herbs, like making these elaborate soups and always adding herbs. And there was even this Thai herbal balm, which I really wish I had. It has at least 30 different herbs, and it's like has this minty smell, and she'd always like give it to me to smell. And even when you're sick, like I'm sick right now and I'm like craving that, it opens up all the sinuses. It's just something she had, like a tiny balm, and it's so potent with 30 herbs. So I've been around that, I feel like, more with my Thai influence because traditionally they just work with herbs. There's lemongrass in the soups, it's part of the cuisine. So I've always been around that. But what really made me dive into working with plants and realizing that they have a spirit was listening to a podcast.
Really? That's so
Yeah.
beautiful.
So it's coming full circle. I was realizing that one of the things that opened me to plant communication was hearing about others speaking about plant communication. And that's how we receive information through stories or people sharing that they've had this experience with a plant. And it makes you realize that it's possible for you too. So,
Beautiful. Do you
yeah.
remember what was shared in this episode on the podcast?
Yes. So it was Amber Magnolia Hills, Mythic Medicine. So yeah, I started getting into herbalism, I would say in university. Like I just loved going to the herb shop and buying teas, and it was just something that felt so natural. It was never like I saw someone doing this and I wanted to copy them. It was like, no, I just loved being going to tea shops and like picking different plants and herbs and learning. And so I wanted to start to learn more knowledge. And that's when I found the podcast, Mythic Medicine. I just resonated with her at that time. And this specific podcast was talking about Datura. Do you know Datura?
No.
No, okay. There's other names she goes by, Angel's Trumpet and Moonflower. It's like that bell-shaped flower that is really alluring and has a really potent smell that
Ah,
opens
is
up
it
the night.
also known as devil's trumpet?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can put it on your pillow and then it makes you have lucid dreams.
Yes. Yeah. So
Yes.
she's like, it's hard because when I talk about these plants, I have so much respect and reverence. Like, I actually, I'm not going to go and just take her blooms and be like, give me the dreams. She's a very strong plant. She's known to make people go delirious if you make a tea. Like, I'm not recommending this at all. If she's coming in your field, then it's meant for you to know her. But in this podcast, I didn't know Datura. And it was this woman talking with Amber. I don't remember her name. I think it might be Sophia Rose. And she was talking about a flower essence that she made with Datura. So it doesn't have the physical plant in the bottle, it's the essence of Datura. So you put the bloom in a glass of water and let the sun infuse its codes. And then that's the essence. And you can add crystals and gems. And I remember in this time I was going through a really big ending. I had been living in Granada, Spain, and I was teaching English in Spain. And then I came back to California, which is always hard for me. It's a big culture shock. And I also was ending something with a lover. So it was just like so much pain and like I was lost. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know where I'm going to live. Like, I'm just closing this chapter in Spain and I don't know what my purpose is. So I've been there many times, like when, you lose faith on your path and then the plants have been my biggest supporters. So Datura is a plant that is for endings and death and rebirth. And she really supports that liminal space of transitions. So when you really need to release something, Datura may come into your field and it's a very potent plant. And I love intensity. Like I have my North Node is Scorpio. So I'm like, I love this. She's very scorpionic, like Pluto in Venus. She's a lover, but she's intense. Like she'll rip your heart out just to put it back in. And yeah, so in this podcast, they were talking about Datura, and I didn't know who she was. I didn't know what this plant was, but they were talking about the themes of endings and beginnings. And one thing I want to say is like when you start to hear a plant, it's like your consciousness or your memory is creating a pattern or a link that wasn't there before. So I was walking around, I was in San Diego at the time, and I saw this plant that just caught my attention, like a bush with really beautiful bell-shaped flowers hanging down. And I
And it
took a
was just
picture.
growing there.
It was just growing, yeah. There's a lot of
Wow.
datura moonflower. And I took a picture. I didn't know what this plant was. I was just like, oh, this is such a beautiful plant. I feel so drawn to it. And when I posted that picture, a friend said, oh, that's Angel's trumpet, datura. And I was like, what? No way. And it was the first time I heard about a plant and then met the plant so quickly just because I was in the frequency and the vibration of the plant. I was paying attention.
Yes.
So, yeah, that podcast really opened something for me there.
Beautiful. So you met I know it as a devil's trumpet, but you met the angel's
Yeah.
trumpet, and you said that was one of the first experiences where you realized that there was more to a plant than just a plant, but they have actual spirits. Can
Yes.
you share a bit more about how those first experiences were, realizing that plants have spirits?
Hmm. So I do have to honor every plant on my path. And I don't like to bring up the master plant so much because I really have so much reverence and it's so hard. I don't want to just be talking about ayahuasca and bringing this energy. But it was through an ayahuasca ceremony that this whole portal blasted open for me. And after that, I looked at plants differently and plants were coming to me. And just even like simple plants, like that grows in everyone's backyard. Dandelion. I remember being really drawn to chamomile and dandelion. And at this time, I was doing a lot of work on my solar plexus and womb. And that's like one of the properties of dandelion. It helps clean the liver and clean all the toxins in the body, cleans the blood. And chamomile is really soothing and antibacterial. And
So this first ayahuasca ceremony or an ayahuasca ceremony blasted open your experience of feeling spirits in the
yes,
plants. Yeah.
yeah.
So what happened for you next? Because now all you're radiating on your Instagram, for example, is about plants and herbs. And what is it that you love so much about connecting with their spirits?
Mm. Yeah, so I just started working with them in the way that I would make medicines, like making tinctures and teas and infused herbal oils and incorporating them in my self-care practice, ritual practices, and just letting my intuition guide me, like not really thinking so much about, oh, this plant is good for this symptom or that has this medicinal property. I've always been working with intuition since I was little. So it's not something that I had to learn really. It was something that's always been strong within me. Yeah. And just like having plants around me, like going to the market and buying rosemary and then getting inspired or just smelling the plant, making plant baths, which we can dive into later because I know you love plant baths.
Yes.
It's actually really simple. Like people think that herbalists go to like study for 7 years and know the materia medica, the medicinal properties of every single plant, but you can literally start in your kitchen or with your grandmother. And this is something that I never really got. I never had a grandmother that was showing me and teaching me to work with plants. I kind of had to learn that myself and allow the plants to be my teachers, my grandmother, my grandfather. But I know many people have had the beautiful opportunity to have grandmothers that just make teas for them or show them plants in the garden or like make simple things.
Yes.
Like you can start simple. You can literally make a tea with rosemary or infuse rosemary in an oil and then add it to your food. And that's already getting the flavors. So what I love is the simplicity of working with plants, honestly, because it brings me back to my nature. It brings me back to just being and not needing to do. And of course, you can make elaborate flower essences and mixtures with like 13 different plants. And all that, but it just really makes me calm. And yeah, even when I'm not hearing like all these voices from the plants or having these big insights, but it's like having a friend or having a mother or having like a lover that just doesn't judge you for how you are and is always there if you need someone to call upon.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So, when you say, I hear all these voices of the plants, can you share a bit more on how the plants speak to you?
So to start a connection with the plant, notice the plants that are around you. So we think that we need to have these exotic plants like blue lotus or I don't know what other herb, but an herb that's like not growing around you. But wherever you are in the world, wherever you're living right now, there's plants that have your highest good in mind and they want to support you. So literally any plant that is growing around where you are. Like for me right now, I'm in Brazil and there's a lot of powerful plants from the Amazon that I'm connecting to already, like guarana and catuaba, which are for energy and they're aphrodisiacs. And that's because I'm here, I'm in Brazil. I wouldn't necessarily be taking like guarana every day if I'm in Europe because there's other plants that are around and it's also more ethical. So, a way that you can start to speak to a plant, and I really love this because I learned this from a Thai herbalist who was this cute little tiny woman, and I did a little week course with her, and she took us to plants out in the jungle, and she just had us stand in front of them, touch them, and say, "Hello, my name is Danielle. Like, I want to know more about you. Who are you?" And it's like talking to a friend. It's like meeting a new person or like being in a new relationship with someone. You're not going to be like, do this for me, like, go give me a massage, take me to this restaurant. You're not going to be so abrasive. You kind of just ask, where are you from? Like, who are you? What do you like to do? So that's one of my tips for starting to speak and have a relationship with the plant and talking to them like your friend, talking to them like someone that you want to get to know, being curious.
I love that you share this because I've been teaching mediumship for almost a
Mm,
decade now. And one of the things that I always share with my students is that when they go into a psychic reading or a reading with a spirit in the spirit world, I always say you need one thing. I mean,
mm,
two. One of them is curiosity.
mm.
So I think connecting with the spirit of plants in a way is very similar to connecting with the spirit of a person or the spirit of a loved one in spirit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, so we bring curiosity towards the plant and speak with the plant. How did you experience plants communicating with you? Is
Hmm.
that something you would see, something you would feel? Like, how would that information from the plants come into your awareness?
Yes. So one thing also I want to add, curiosity and patience. Patience
Mm,
and not getting frustrated because it's something that's new. Maybe you've never done it before and you need patience because plants speak. I swear on everything in my reality, plants speak, but you need patience because it's a new intuitive muscle. So for me, I've experienced a lot of plant speaking through my dreams. Like I've dreamt a lot with rosemary. I have a really beautiful story I'll share. So I was living in Peru last year and I had moved to this new house and I was dreaming a lot. Like I was really in isolation and connecting to myself and, what I want to do in the world. And I had a dream about honeysuckle. And also at this time, I was calling in a lot of abundance and wealth and just like beauty and pleasure. I was like, I really want to attract more abundance in my life. And I had this dream about honeysuckle. And I knew that there was honeysuckle growing in Peru. And in this dream, I feel like there was a family member that had honeysuckle behind their ear and then was coming to like whisper something in my ear. And then I woke up. And the next day, I go out into town and I'm coming back to my house that I've already lived in for 2 months. And then I see a huge honeysuckle bush right by my gate. So she was like whispering to me because I was not attuned to her. I wasn't noticing. I wasn't noticing that she was already there. So
So
it's
she came
like
into your
she
dream.
came into my dreams. Yeah, for me, it's more dreams and also hearing messages, or like when I see plants repeatedly, I know that they want to work with me. Like with rosemary, I was just on the beach in Brazil and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna get a caipirinha. I don't usually drink alcohol, but it's a drink with, I guess, like a vodka cachaça is a liquor, and then they add lemon and something else. And this guy's just made me like a very witchy drink, and he put in a ton of rosemary. Like it's a
Wow.
caipirinha on the beach, and he just put in so much rosemary, and it was like put in hibiscus. It was a very foresty drink, and I was like, okay, rosemary wants to work with me now, and I keep seeing rosemary everywhere, and it's like that
Mm,
repetition.
beautiful. I
Yeah.
love that. So you shared that you don't really look too much at the meaning in books about the qualities of each plant. Do you have other ways to feel
No,
the
no, no. I
medicinal?
do. Yeah, I love to like research, and I've had a lot of beautiful plant books, or I look on the internet, the medicinal, spiritual, physical, metaphysical properties of each plant. I think it's really important to also know, because if you want to work with herbs and you want to help people, like it's just also good to know the physical, like scientific aspect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because not every herb is good for everyone, right? I know, for example, I've been working a lot with Aruda that you're holding. Is it Aruda you have in your hand?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been working a lot with her. I also use her a lot in my ritual baths. But I know, for
Beautiful.
example, this herb also has like abortive qualities. So when you're
Yeah.
pregnant, for example, you cannot use it. So each plant, I agree, it's good to also have some knowledge around. You cannot just use every plant for every
Yes.
situation. But what I was maybe curious towards, where my question came from, is do you also connect with the plants to feel how they work specifically for you? Or maybe that you discover qualities that are not so much in the books? Have you had experiences like
Mm.
that as well?
Yes. So I had a recent experience with this plant called skullcap. It's a plant that actually has like flowers that look like tiny skulls. So already I know from that, it's called the doctrine of signatures. Like when a plant looks like something in the body, it's usually good for that. And I knew that skullcap is a really like nervine relaxant. It's really potent for like as a potent sedative, and also supports the nervous system. So I felt one night I was really stressed during a launch that I just did, that I just needed to rest and relax my nervous system. And then I looked in my herb bag because I travel with so many herbs wherever I go. And skullcap was just kind of
Mm.
screaming out to me. And I made a tea, and wow, it was strong. I passed out at 7 p.m. I passed out at 7
Wow.
p.m. and I started having this like very ethereal, like lucid dream because my whole body was so relaxed and my nervous system was relaxed. I was just taken on a journey, and it felt really psychedelic and really shamanic. And I didn't think of skullcap in that way. I was like, okay, it's another sedative, and kind of like valerian root and passion flower. Like it will just make me sleep better. But yeah, it showed me it's a very potent teacher. And then when I looked up further meaning, I saw that Cherokee Native Americans were working with this plant. And I actually have Cherokee ancestry, like from my mother's side. So
Mm.
it's something that's so ancestral, but I didn't know the extent because no one taught me. And I also learned that skullcap was used for menstruating, like girls started their first menstruation as a rite of passage.
Mm.
So there's just so many levels and so many initiations. You have to experiment with the plants, and you have to trust your intuitive abilities to know how much to take of a plant. I don't
Yeah.
measure teas, I don't measure tinctures. Sometimes I overdo it because I love them so much. I'm like, I want to feel all of you right now. But that's because I have deep trust in myself and I know how to move myself through these experiences. And I can imagine like the amount of skullcap tea that I made could be a little bit like disorienting for someone upon waking to really go in such a trance and a shamanic state with an herb that they think is just going to help them sleep, but it's actually opening you up to the astral world and this
Mm,
connection. So you never know. So I feel like for people that are just starting to listen, I kind of do this thing in my courses where I take people on a medicine drum journey to meet your spirit plant, which I'll probably record a meditation and share that at some point. But you can start with like lavender or rosemary and chamomile or ginger or turmeric.
yes.
You don't need to start with these plants that maybe you need more experience for because some plants have really strong spirits. Rose is a
Yeah.
great one for everyone. I feel like in these times, everyone's needing rose to open their hearts and things for the lungs. That's coming to me like warming herbs and just like stuff that brings us into our body or peppermint. Yeah.
Beautiful. So, if the listener is now curious and is like, oh, wow, I would love to connect and start listening to rose or lavender, chamomile, ginger, turmeric, peppermint, how could they do that? In what
Mhm.
way? Would that be through making a tea?
Yes, anything. Like get creative, make teas, use rose oil, and you don't have to start making your own medicines right away. Like you can buy a rose oil in like an organic herb shop. So I'm sure I don't have to say this, but I'll just say it. It's really important to, when you're starting to make teas and work with herbs, to always buy from ethically sourced companies. I
Yeah.
really like mountain rose herbs. I think they ship within the US and Europe, but since I've been living in many different countries, I always just go to local herb shops or like to the local market and get these herbs. You can do teas, tinctures, oils. You can sleep with the herb under your pillow. There's just so many
Mm.
things you can just like sit in meditation with Ruda, or you can take a bath, like you said. Another thing I want to say about Ruta is it's really good for earache. So if you have an earache, like an ear infection,
Mm.
you can make an oil by heating up Ruta, like fresh Ruta in an oil, and then put it in your ear. And that will help with that.
Wow. That's
It's
so
amazing.
beautiful. My first introduction with Ruda was in Brazil, actually. And
Wow.
I was on a festival with some ancient medicine women
Mm.
and men. And there was this one man from Argentina, and we would receive yoni steam with Ruda.
Mhm.
So we would go into a
Powerful.
little black tent and we would squat above the boiling water and the aruda inside of it. And receiving the yoni steam was like one of the most powerful steams I've ever had in
So
my life.
powerful.
And then we had to do a sequence of 7 days, and it was a deep,
Wow.
deep
Just
cleanse of my
Ruda.
womb. Just
Wow.
Ruda, yeah. That was all he was doing. This medicine man, he was working with yoni steams, with Ruda, and it would work with hape also, very strong hape. But
Wow.
that was his medicine, and it was incredible, like the amount of cleanse that happened from my womb from those 7 days.
Mhm.
I love this plant. Very, very powerful.
Wow. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
never done a yoni steam with Ruda, but I feel like that'd be great.
Yes. Okay, so they can connect through teas, through tinctures, through oils, through sleeping with the herbs underneath their pillows. I feel also curious because you mentioned a bit earlier that you work a lot with herbs that are improving or opening psychic abilities.
Yeah.
Can you share a bit more about
Let's
that?
go there. So, yeah, herbs come in to me in cycles. I also want to say that you can start working with an herb and you can really go deep with an herb for like, a few weeks or a month. And it doesn't mean that you're always like every single day you're going to be working with Ruda because it's like a period in your time where you needed this medicine the most. So it's like not being attached, knowing that relationships come and go. We can even
Mm,
be in a 2-year relationship with someone and then that ends, but their essence is still with us and we can call upon that energy whenever we need. And then that allows space for new plants to come in. So I've had this relationship with mugwort. Do you know mugwort?
Yes,
Yeah.
I love mugwort. Mugwort, aruda, they are in my top favorite
Oh, of
herbs.
course.
Hi there, just a quick break from the episode for a warm invitation by Sia Heka and myself for the 18th of June into our free online activation, 3 ways to reset and renew yourself with ancient rituals. This is an activation that will bring awareness, devotion, and sacredness to the transformations that are happening in your life so you can set the tone for the next chapter. In this activation, we'll go into learning how to truly let go of an old version of yourself. You'll discover how to hold the energy when you are in the void so that you can navigate the unknown better. And you can find out how to make space for a new you so you can truly rebirth yourself. In this activation, you will discover how ritual can enrich your personal and professional life. And Sia and myself would love to see you in this free online activation on the 18th of June. The live version is free. The replay will be available for €33, and you can sign up through the link below this episode. Now, back to the episode.
Yeah, so I was living in South France 2 years ago by the river, and there was so much mugwort growing, wild mugwort. I had heard about mugwort a lot and had dried teas with mugwort because it's really good for balancing hormones, our moon cycles in women, dealing with menstrual cramps. It just really aligns everything in the body. And so I was working with mugwort a lot. You can even make like smoke wands with plants that you tie up and dry and then like make bundles. And then it can also be cleansing. That's another way to work with plants. And yeah, I had a really deep connection with mugwort at this time. I was doing a lot of dream work. I was a lot by the river, next to water, connecting to my emotions, really slowing down, starting more of this work with my womb. So doing yoni steams with mugwort, making teas, like really connecting to my creative center. And then, time went by and mugwort wasn't in my reality so much. I started to connect with other herbs like blue lotus, and because I've been traveling, I've been to Mexico, Peru, so like different herbs come in my reality all the time. And just right now, mugwort is coming back. So thankfully, I have a really big bag of mugwort, like a kilo bag of mugwort that I've been traveling with. And yeah, this herb, mugwort and rosemary, these herbs are just coming back because I feel like I'm opening new levels of my psychic abilities and my intuition, which is calling the need for more protection because a lot of energies, a lot of messages coming in, and it's like calling in for more clarity and protection around my aura. So mugwort has just been coming up. It's a really, really witchy herb for protection. She's Artemisia. Her Latin name is Artemisia vulgaris. She's connected to Artemis, the queen, the huntress of the forest, connected to the goddess of the moon. I really like this term that I read in one of these books called Plant Spirit Shamanism. They're talking about another plant in this book, but they talk about the energy of stalking your own mind, of hunting your own mind, of hunting your own patterns. So mugwort is a really good plant for doing that, being the huntress of the forest of your own mind and seeing like what outdated patterns need to go or what type of protection you need or to make your nervous system feel safe. So I feel really, really protected when I have mugwort as my ally, drinking teas, making yoni steams, like allowing the steam to go into my womb. And also, yeah, putting mugwort under my pillow. And that really supports my dreams. And yeah, she's a warrior. I hope that answers your
Beautiful.
question. I feel like I'm like going on to mugwort really brings me into this dreamy like moon lunar state. So I'm already feeling her
Beautiful.
power.
I love it. Yeah.
You were talking about working with herbs to open
Plants that are
intuition.
opening psychic abilities. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, so mugwort is one of them. She really opens that. the third eye intuition, also yarrow. Do you know yarrow?
No, I don't.
No. Okay. It's also an herb that is protective in the dream state, and it's been used as divination, kind of like the I Ching. The stalks of yarrow have been used for divination. So, a way that I like to work with yarrow in my dreams is to make an intention before I go to sleep and drink yarrow tea and ask to receive insights about a specific topic that I want
Mm,
guidance on from my ancestors, from my plant ancestors in my dreams. And yarrow is one of those herbs that at the same time, like mugwort, while you can open these abilities, you feel this layer of safety, like protection over your aura, like this psychic
yeah,
healing, because it can be a lot when you're opening. I don't know if you can share more about that, or if you also use plants in this when you're teaching mediumship and opening psych abilities, but it can be a lot, no, when you're opening this.
absolutely. Yes. Yeah, I think one of the plants that I love using a lot for protection is actually, again, Aruda, because it creates like a shield around you that protects from negativity, that protects from intensity. So that's one that I love to work with. I would say over the last few years, I take protection also lightly in a way,
Mhm.
because I think there was a point where I started to protect myself so much that that started to give me tension, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
I think for me, at some point, it was more important to learn to be okay and practice with feeling all these things. And then, yes, sure, every now and then I would work with Aruda or work with, I would say more with energetic hygiene than with
Mhm.
energetic protection. But that's me
Mhm.
personally. I can see also, like in my courses, that some women really are benefited with bringing more focus towards protection. But for me,
Yeah,
it would be more hygiene. So, like showers,
cleansing.
imagining that any energy that is not mine, making sure that it keeps my system clean and that it can continue to flow through.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
that. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Because it's
beautiful.
natural also, right? I believe also it's natural that we can sense so much, that it's part of our intuitive nature. And simultaneously, yes, it can also be completely overwhelming sometimes when we sense everything that we sense. So I love
Mhm.
that you bring this reminder that the plants can help us do that.
Yes. Yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. I've had a lot of beautiful experiences with indigenous people in the Amazon and different teachers and different traditions in Mexico and Guatemala. And with Ruda, as part of an energetic cleansing, they'll just like scan Ruda on the body, hit
I
different
love that.
different places. So I love what you're saying about releasing and
Yeah.
the energetic hygiene.
Yeah. So I see that you have some fresh Aruda in your hands. And I would love to talk a little bit about the difference between fresh and dried herbs. Because last January, I was in Benin, West Africa, and I went through my
Mhm.
first voodoo initiation. And in the initiation, I received a lot of plant baths, like many, many, like almost daily. I would shower myself with plants, like with plant
Wow.
baths. Very beautiful. And one of the things that I really love there is that they use the fresh plant a lot because it grows everywhere, right? But now when I'm back here in Amsterdam, it's actually quite difficult to get access to fresh herbs and plants. So mostly what I have in my closet over here in Amsterdam are dried herbs and plants.
Yes.
I feel curious what your experience is because in Benin, the plant beds would be prepared in cold water because the
Uh-huh.
freshness of the plant would just release their extracts anyway into the water. But what I do here is I prepare my ritual beds with hot water because of the dried
Mhm.
leaves. I feel curious if you have something to say around that.
Yes, absolutely. So you pretty much just answered it in what you were saying. Ideally, it would be amazing to have these plants in your garden, growing, receiving all this solar energy, receiving your
Yes.
offerings, receiving your energy, you speaking to the plant. And when you want to work with the plant, you cut the plant or you pick the roses or you pick the stalks and then you create a bath. I feel like with the fresh plant, I also do hot infusions with the fresh plant because it makes the extract more potent. And I think also I've just been craving more heat and warmth in my body. But in the Amazon, when I did a dieta, yes, it was like they mashed the fresh plant in cold water, and it's like
Exactly.
the plant, yeah, is all over you. And that also, the cold water, the fresh plant, the energy from the sun keeps the life force of the plant really intact. So when the plant is dried and it's been shipped or it's like been sitting in an herb shop, you don't feel the life force as much. Even like
No.
this root I got a couple days ago, I feel less the life force, but it still feels alive, no? Like she keeps coming up, like you keep wanting to talk about her. I keep wanting to hold her. It's like the life force is more active. So I would say that's the only difference. But of course, it's not easy to have these plants in your garden all the time. How are you
No.
going to have these plants from Benin and where you are in the Netherlands? So we just do the best that we can. But it's really about the essence of the plant, because when the plant is receiving so much of the life force from the sun, it's so activated. And then when it's
Yeah.
dried, it's like the life force is less. So there's also like ways to dry the plant. If you're drying the plant, actually you don't want to dry it so much in the sun. Herbalists are always hanging the plants kind of in their kitchen, like where there's not hitting sunlight, because once you
Yeah.
harvest the plant, the sun can also suck out the life force. So it's really about that. It's about that energy,
Yeah.
the light energy. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Because I was wondering about this. I was just intuitively doing that, right? With the dried
Yes.
herbs, I was intuitively feeling, okay, this needs hot water to really extract their essence out of it. And then with the
Right.
fresh ones, I felt that so much less.
But also it's you've already connected with the fresh plant in spirit. You can always call upon the spirit to come through. So you have
I
to
love
just speak
that.
that out. And when you're making your bath, speak out, speak to the plant spirit, and that will kind of activate, you know? Oh, you were the one that posted Rose of Jericho, right?
Yes.
Yes. I
I
just saw
actually
this.
received this rose. I'm so in love with this rose. I received
Oh,
this rose last year from a friend and she gave it to me and I said thank you and I put it on my closet, but I didn't really connect with it. And then I bumped into a video on YouTube from like a woman that has an
oh,
amazing hoodoo shop. So she has all
oh.
these different hoodoo herbs. And she was sharing about the Rose of Jericho. And I was like, I think I have this rose in my closet. So it was coming back again, like, hello, I'm here in your
Yeah.
house. And then I found this incredible bowl to make the resurrection water in because that's the
Oh,
quality of the Rose of Jericho. It has this
wow.
power of resurrection. And I was just completely amazed when I put this rose in the water and it went from dead and dry to completely
Exactly.
open and green and luscious and like fully alive. I don't know. I'm so amazed with this plant. So I have been making resurrection water quite a few times and adding it to
It's
my
so amazing.
ritual baths. It's really, yeah, because I love at the beginning of this episode how you shared about the process of death and rebirth and the liminal space in
Mhm.
between. And I have a program together with a dear friend of mine called Rites of Passage, where we exactly go
Wow.
into these three stages of death, liminality, and rebirth. And the Rose of Jericho is very much part of that third phase, the resurrection.
That's so beautiful. Yeah, she just popped in my mind and I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter if they're dried or if they're fresh. Like their spirit is alive no matter what, no matter where you
It's
are.
so true. It's
Yeah,
so
so
true.
that's big
Yeah.
medicine.
Thank you for that reminder. Because actually, the Rose of Jericho can have cold water, it can have boiling hot water. It's so
Oh,
resilient. It's
so
like, I think it's one of
resilient.
the strongest plants on the planet. I don't know. Maybe I'm just saying something
Wow.
here, but I'm so amazed with this plant. Yeah.
Yes. What plants did you use in your plant bath? I'm super curious if you're able to share. I'm just so curious what plants are being used in
Yeah.
Benin, these rituals.
So there is one plant that I connected with the strongest in Benin, and it was hyssop. Hyssop
Mm,
is also a plant that you see in the Bible. It's a plant that they used for cleansing spaces, cleansing themselves. And
wow.
hyssop, yeah, it has this very strong cleansing effect. So this is one that I've been working with since my time in Benin a lot. And I brought
Wow.
some dried hyssop from there. So I have that, that spirit of Benin also with me in the
Oh,
plants here.
that's so
And
sweet.
then I have a lot of different herbs. And to be honest, I just intuitively choose them. Almost like I would spread out an oracle deck and I pick the card that calls me the most. I do the same with the plants and
Yes.
mix them up. And I also make mixtures for friends when they are in a specific process. I just call the herbs and see which ones want to go and support them in their process. But rose is in there, chamomile is in there, peppermint is in there, mugwort, aruda, damiana.
Tamiana,
Uh,
yes. She's my girl. She's my girl. I love
yes,
her.
yeah, jasmine. I mean, many, many different plants. And I would say mostly intuitive that I
Yeah.
pick. But I did go online and I unpacked every herb also through research and made like, I have a really beautiful witch book now where I put in all my herbs so I can also look at
Oh,
the deeper meaning. St.
yeah.
John's wort also.
I love the
Yeah.
St. John's wort. So
Yes,
radiant.
it is. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing all this. Is there anything I didn't ask you about that you feel inspired to share about?
I actually have one story that I feel like I want to share. I was living in Guatemala and I was in a Mayan womb massage course where they were using a lot of plants doing sobadas, which is essentially like wrapping the womb in a cloth, but also putting plants on the womb for the medicinal benefits of like heating and all of that. And I started a lot to work with copal. Do you know of
Mm,
copal? Yeah, it's
yes.
beautiful, like the smoke, and we made a copal oil in that course. And I was super inspired to keep working with copal because I loved the smell and I really felt its masculine energy of focus and meditation and just bringing me back in connection with spirit. So I made an oil, an infused oil, a ritual oil that I put in other herbs like rose, and it was delicious. It was one of the most special oils I've made because it was in a time I was separating from my partner of 2 years, who was also in Guatemala at that time. And it was just so painful. But at the same time, I was really opening up my womb to my creative power and my energies of working with plants, working with women, working with the womb, which is so important. So, like, at the same time, I was separating from someone that was really important and a big catalyst in my journey of womanhood. I was also just diving deeper into my mission and my passion. And Copal was a really supporting energy. So I made this copal oil that I infused roses in an almond oil and like blended together to have this synergy of masculine, feminine qualities. And I always
Mm,
come up with names. Like I'm just, like a fairy. Like I love creating, I love thinking of names. And I called it Sovereign because I was really coming into alignment with myself and my sovereign energy, breaking away from anyone or anything that's not serving me or that's keeping me from my path. So I had this oil with me like the past, few months. And then I brought it with me to Costa Rica because copal is really antibacterial, anti-inflammatory. Like it's a resin that stays good for a very long time. It can never go bad. And it was the first time I was like, you know what? I want to just sell my medicines at this festival. And I thought I
mm.
was going to be meeting people and telling them I have this oil, but I was actually, at Envision Festival, just like dancing, having so much fun, just going to different workshops. And I put my copal oil in the apothecary, like the pop-up apothecary that was there. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to leave my medicine there. Didn't even have my name or a picture of me, but my medicine was there and like the frequency of it. And this is so crazy. It just makes my heart and womb explode because there was one night I went out and I was dancing until sunrise. And I just felt so connected to the trees and the roots and just the vibration of everything around me. Like after being 7 days at this festival, so tired, just giving all my
Mm.
energy. And I saw this girl in the crowd and she had a hat with a plant on it. And I was like, wow, I like your hat, the plant on your hat. And I just took out my copal oil because sometimes I like to just be like a little fairy and give people like an oil. And I said, put out your hand. I have some copal oil for you to smell. And she looks at me and she's like, did you make this oil? Is this yours? And I said, yeah, I made it. This is my oil. And she tells me, I've been looking at this oil in the apothecary shop the past few days, but I didn't buy it because of the price, but I've been really drawn to it. And it was just out of 10,000 people, out of a crowd of hundreds of people that were dancing at sunrise at like 5:30 in the morning, I connect to this woman who has been feeling the frequency of this oil. And I told her like why I made it. I told her I was separating from someone. I was calling in my sovereign energy, and she starts like tears flowing down and tells me that she's just going through a separation and she came to this festival to be
Mm.
independent and be sovereign. And it was just so much beauty and so much trust that, I don't need to even tell people what I'm doing or even sell. The plant speaks for itself. The plant connects. I feel like I'm a connector. The plant that someone needs, it will speak through me and come to that person. And sometimes I don't even have to speak in that instance.
Wow.
And this
That's
was,
so beautiful.
yeah, this was like, this moment was such a reaffirmation of my path and my mission and just the whole beauty.
Yes.
And of course, she got the oil because all the energy that I put into making it, all the processes I went through, my whole journey was completely infused. It's alchemy, it's magic. It literally is magic. So just want everyone to
Beautiful.
take that in. It's alchemy of spirit. It's so
Beautiful.
important.
I love that. And what I also really love about this story is how when we are walking our path and when we are in connection with how life is guiding us in each moment, there's just this endless waves of synchronicities and magic. And
Yes.
that's what I hear in this final story that you're sharing, that how in the world do you meet that woman that has been looking at your oil and she's going through the exact theme that she needs to be supported with? Like, I don't even know how life does that, right? I share in my episode how I ended up in Benin in my voodoo initiation. I wasn't
Yes.
planning to go there. It just happened.
I
Life had a
love that
plan
story.
for me. Yeah. So it's like, I love those stories, like your story, my story, but people's story, when we are in that deep connection with life and we're willing to listen, it just creates magic that we don't even know how that works.
Right?
Yeah, all I know, it just always has me in this place of awe and respect and feeling amazed with the magic of life. So thank you for bringing in this story. It's really,
Thank
really
you.
beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah. And if the listeners are curious to you and your work, what are your offerings? Do you have any upcoming offerings that they could join you in?
Yes. So right now I'm in the process of launching a masterclass on starting to make herbal teas. I'll also speak about
Nice.
connecting to plant spirits, but I'll be sharing like different blends for the womb, for energy, for dreams, and kind of going in as deep as I can in this masterclass with the medicinal properties and also the psycho-spiritual aspects of plants. And I'll soon be
Beautiful.
launching a course. So I'll be dropping in
Nice.
little teasers on my Instagram. So right now my main platform is Instagram and I'm in the process of building my website and all that. But yeah, you can find me
Amazing.
Garden of Shakti underscore.
Yes, we'll make sure that we put your Instagram link below this episode so that people can come there and follow you. And it's a joy to follow you because I'm learning also about the plants
Yeah.
as I'm following you. And I really love your passion for plants and specifically also how you bring the love for plants that are not like these super impressive master plants, but are just the plants that we all have in our kitchens, right? That we all
Yes.
have access to in our local store.
They're
Yeah, so
so
thank you.
magical. Yes.
Thank you so much for spreading this beautiful work and for sharing your wisdom with us today. All my blessings for your journey with the plants and your beautiful mission.
Thank you so much.
Did you receive any inspiration, motivation, or powerful breakthroughs by listening to this episode? Then please share this episode by taking a screenshot and tagging me in your stories at nicole.nyima.costeres. I would love to celebrate you, share you in my stories, and it would mean so much to have my work reach more powerful, passionate women like you. Thank you so much, and looking forward to see you next week.